European leaders agreed to extensive security guarantees for Ukraine after 2 days of talks in Berlin. U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC, accusing the British broadcaster of defamation.
Workers at the Louvre voted on Monday to strike over staffing, funding and security concerns, shutting the world's most visited museum for the day.
The death toll from Sunday's Bondi Beach mass shooting at a Hanukkah celebration has risen to 15.
After 2 days of talks in Berlin, European leaders agreed to extensive security guarantees for Ukraine, committing to coming to Kyiv's defense in a future attack by Russia. In a statement released on Monday night, Europe and the US committed to work together to provide the guarantees, including a European-led armed force supported by the US.
Das ist eine wirklich weitreichende, substanzielle Vereinbarung, die wir bisher nicht hatten, dass nämlich sowohl die Europäer als auch die Amerikaner gemeinsam bereit sind, und Präsident Zelensky hat Bezug genommen auf Artikel 5 des NATO-Vertrages, ähnliche Sicherheitsgarantien für die Ukraine zu geben. Das ist aus meiner Sicht ein wirklich großer Fortschritt, und die amerikanische Seite hat sich hier, wie gesagt, auch politisch und in der Perspektive rechtlich gebunden, dies zu tun.
Other than a multinational force on Ukrainian soil, guarantees also include a US-led mechanism to monitor and verify an eventual ceasefire and Ukraine's accession to the European Union.
We're trying to get it done. And I think we're closer now, and they will tell you that they're closer now. We had numerous conversations with President Putin of Russia, and I think we're closer now than we have been ever, and we'll see what we can do.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said territories were the most difficult issue of the negotiations due to the vast disagreements with Russia, which is intent on taking as much land as possible. The diplomatic breakthrough in Berlin comes days before EU leaders are set together in a crucial summit in Brussels to decide how to raise 90 billion euros to finance Ukraine's budgetary and military needs for 2026 and 2027. Several people were injured in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia on Tuesday in a Russian drone strike that hit a 9-story residential building. Ukraine's State Emergency Service said 5 people were rescued from the building's upper floors and 3 people were receiving treatment for injuries. The attack also led to temporary power outages across the region and damaged a commercial facility. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched 69 drones into Ukraine overnight, 57 of which were shot down by Ukraine's air defenses. In Odessa, energy workers restored electricity to 330,000 households on Tuesday after Russian strikes targeted energy infrastructure a day earlier. 288,000 families in Odessa are still without electricity as reparations are ongoing. The strikes came after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met in Berlin with European leaders and U.S. negotiators for peace talks. He announced that a final peace deal could be presented to the Kremlin within days.
Ukraine says it has hit a Russian Kilo-class submarine with underwater drones in the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk. Security Service SPU says its subsea baby drones critically damaged the 363.3 Varshavyanka boat, effectively putting it out of action. The submarine, worth up to 340 million euros, carried caliber cruise missiles used to strike Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure. Kyiv says the attack is the first time underwater strike drones have successfully targeted a submarine of this class.
And we are working on a framework.
Ukrainian officials add that the strike is part of a wider maritime campaign that has already pushed Russian vessels out of Sevastopol Bay towards Novorossiysk.
The European Commission is set on signing the Mercosur agreement before the end of the year, increasing pressure on France to lift its opposition. Supporters of the deal have grown impatient after 25 years of negotiations between the Mercosur countries and the Commission. A Commission spokesperson stressed the urgency of reaching a deal due to a shift in the global geo-economic landscape.
The Commission's expectation remains to sign the EU-Mercosur agreement by the end of 2025, subject to the completion of Council procedures. While it is for the Council to decide on next steps, in the view of the Commission, signing the deal now is a matter of crucial importance, economically, diplomatically and geopolitically.
French farmers have increasingly expressed their anger at President Emmanuel Macron, stressing that the deal would expose them to unfair competition from Latin American imports. France has called for a delay to the December deadline, arguing that the right conditions are not yet in place for the vote to proceed. EU lawmakers will vote Tuesday on a safeguard clause proposed by the Commission, with some MEPs adding amendments on reciprocity.
U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC, accusing the British broadcaster of defamation as well as deceptive and unfair trade practices. It comes after Trump sent a letter last month threatening to sue over the editing over an edition of the BBC's flagship current affairs program Panorama, in which two separate parts of a speech he held on January 6, 2021 were spliced together. The lawsuit also accused the episode, which aired days before the 2024 presidential election, of election interference.
Yeah, they had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say. And the beautiful words that I said. Right? The beautiful words, talking about patriotism and all of the good things that I said. They didn't say that, but they put terrible words.
The BBC had apologized last month to Trump over the edit of the speech, but rejected claims it had defamed him. The lawsuit was filed in Florida as deadlines to bring the case in British courts expired more than a year ago. Legal experts have brought up potential challenges to a case in the U.S., given that the documentary was not shown in the country.
Workers at Louvre voted on Monday to strike over staffing, funding and security concerns, shutting the museum for the day. Around 400 staff backed the walkout, forcing the world's most visited museum to turn visitors away at the doors.
Le personnel du Louvre a voté à l'unanimité la grève au musée du Louvre parce que les conditions de travail sont non seulement inacceptables, il y a eu une baisse d'effectifs depuis des années et il y a aussi un sujet des rémunérations. Si vous travaillez au Louvre dans l'excellence, de toute façon vous gagnez moins que vos collègues du ministère. Donc un ensemble de raisons, ça ne peut plus continuer.
Unions say talks with the government and culture minister Rashida Dati failed to resolve fears after October's daylight jewel heist. Thieves used a basket lift to break in and steal French crown jewels, with a Senate probe later blaming broken cameras, outdated kit and understaffed control rooms. Staff warned that overcrowding and under-resourcing are putting both security and working conditions at risk.
The death toll from the shooting on Sydney's beachfront has risen to 15, with more than 40 injured still being treated. Among the dead are a 10-year-old girl and a British rabbi. Authorities are currently aware of two attackers but are still investigating whether they had accomplices. The 50-year-old father was shot dead by police at the scene, while his 24-year-old son is being treated in critical condition at a Sydney hospital. Both men had licenses to own firearms for recreational hunting. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has now promised that his government would tighten gun control laws.
The type of atrocities we saw yesterday can't be tolerated, and it's not fair that any section of the community cannot go around their usual way of life. I understand, and the New South Wales Police understand, the fear that is currently within that community, and I think it's really important that we show the resolute support for the communities.
Meanwhile, more and more people are gathering at Bondi Beach to pay their respects to the victims with bouquets of flowers and candles. Australian flags have been lowered to half-mast across the country.
And then we were running up behind me, and we could just hear the gunshots, and they're just so loud. And we didn't know which way that they were shooting, so we were like running on the open road. And I just, like, images are just, like, flashing out. Like, I just need to get my family safe, so we're just running with heaps of people.
About 1,000 people attended Sunday's Hanukkah event in a park near Bondi Beach. Authorities have officially classified the attack as anti-Semitic terrorism.
In the necropolis of Thebes in Egypt, the renovation of the famous colossi of Memnon has been completed, and the monument has reopened to visitors. The twin statues are 14.5 and 13.5 meters high. They depict the pharaoh Amenhotep III, who ruled ancient Egypt some 3,400 years ago. They were badly damaged by earthquakes, and the restoration work took almost 20 years.
This project has in mind, and I hope we fulfilled not only our what we had projected, our project, but our dreams also, to save the last remains of a once prestigious temple. It was the largest of all.
When they found actually those statues, they found it separated in very fragmentary conservation and state, and of course they have to work on it for more than 19 years in order to put everything together, in order to collect all several pieces.
The Egyptian government is stepping up efforts to attract more tourists by showcasing the country's vast archaeological wealth. A few weeks earlier, it inaugurated the Grand Egyptian Museum near the pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx.